Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz game number 292. I was white here, kicked off with e4, and we got into the, cancel that, got into the French defense. d4, d5, knight c3, allowing either the classical with knight f6 or the Winawer with bishop b4. So we get the Winawer. And now I play the offbeat move a3. And this move is not so bad. The engine doesn't approve at first, but if you look at the other options, well, it comes in as number 3 in the list, so still keeping some edge for white, and has the advantage of being a bit of an offbeat. It's a move that your opponent is probably not expecting, because e5 is almost always played here. So a3, bishop takes. This is normal. And now the typical reply here, let's go ahead and show it, is taking. And then you bring your queen out to g4, forking the two pawns. And then knight f6 to defend one of them, and you grab the other. And you get a typical kind of Winawer position. Just a few differences. The knight is here on f3 instead of on e2. And this pawn here is maybe subject to attack. This pawn is defensible here. So it's a different line in the French, and it's interesting to play. And still keeping some edge for white, so it's not bad. Not a bad way to play. Okay, but my opponent played c5 here, and at this point I guess there's nothing better than just to transpose back into a typical Winawer, which I do with the e5. And now the normal move here is, if we look at the opening book, the normal moves here around there, I should say knight e7 is by far the most common move here, and that will lead us to the classical Winawer, with the knight here, the queen coming out to g4, and then queen c7, and pawns being exchanged all over the board. So interesting and tactical line. There's the immediate queen c7 is also an idea here, with the idea after queen g4 of defending with either f6 or f5. So that's playable. But my opponent played queen to b3, quite a rare move. And the engine doesn't really, queen to b6 rather. This is an idea in some other lines of the French, normally after you've developed the knight to c6 to put pressure on the d-pawn. But that hasn't done anything about the weak king side, so now queen g4 is a good answer. And g6 maybe should be played, but that leaves black with some weaknesses in the dark squares. So knight e7, and then I get to grab some pawns, and then black gets a pawn back. But basically white is just a pawn up at this point, and with accurate play, which I don't exhibit here, should be in good shape. So what's the engine like here? Knight f3 or bishop to e2. So these are very reasonable moves. I developed my knight to e2 because I didn't want to block the f-pawn, and sometimes it helps to defend this c3 pawn. So that's what I did, but it's not quite as accurate. Knight bc6 going after the center, very logical, and I play f4. And now my opponent takes on c3, and the engine thinks, hey, black has managed to worm his way out of most of his difficulties, although it still gives slight edge to white. Knight takes c3, and bishop to d7 is played. So I'm still a pawn up here. Maybe bishop d7 is not the most accurate, like knight d4 here. Knight to, oh, that would be interesting, except it would drop the rook, so erase that idea. Knight to d4 here. It's an interesting idea. Okay, my opponent played bishop to d7. Knight d4, by the way, goes after this weak c-pawn. So maybe allows, the engine is suggesting playing rook b1. Oh, to chase the queen. Okay, bishop d7. And now I should play rook b1 right away. I get this idea in a little bit. I bring my queen back first, and he castles. And now I play rook b1. I was debating between rook b1 and bishop to e3. But I decided rook b1 was better. I wasn't really expecting him to play this move, queen d4, offering the trade of queens so early. And what's the engine say? The engine says I should play knight b5. Okay, that's one way of forcing a queen exchange. Knight b5, queen takes d3, and knight d6 check. Oh yeah, this is very strong. Knight b5, there's this exchange. You get here with check, and then you can take the queen back. So good way to play. So the move I played is, let's erase these arrows and put my move on. I'm not going to make the move because my move is a blunder. I just want to show it. I play bishop to e3. So if you want a little tactical quiz, this is a very interesting position. This move, bishop e3, fails for pretty simple tactical reasons. And so see if you can spot what the tactic is here after bishop e3. I'll give you a second to pause the video. Okay, I'm going to give away the answer now. If I put the move on the board, the engine shows right away. He can just take, and then I took back with the pawn, and now he has the move d4, which he didn't play, but this is the tactic. The exchange gets the gets the queens out of the way and sets up these pieces for a fork. It's another reason why in this position knight b5 is a strong move. It's attacking the queen and forcing an exchange, getting the knight to a good square, but it's also, well, compared to bishop e3, it's getting the knight out of one of those forking squares, so the bishop can come to e3 later. So anyway, after bishop e3, queen takes. I took with the pawn here because I didn't want to lose the g-pawn here, which is under threat from the rook. My bishop is... but if I had taken by the bishop, it would have been slightly better with best play. d4 is still possible, but I have knight b5 here is a little better. Okay, so but I took with the pawn, and he should have just done that fork. Anyway, that's too bad. Gotta watch for things like that. But he missed it, and he played knight f5, hitting my bishop. And so now I'm back to being in the driver's seat once again. Although in a somewhat simplified position, I should be okay here. But it's a little tricky because his knights are getting active. I'm trying to shore up my pawns here and trying to find a place for my king, which has not castled and still can't castle because of the bishop on f1. He comes in with knight c2 check, maybe hoping to pick up a pawn, but this doesn't work. And actually it solved one of my problems because I got my king off the back rank. I wasn't necessarily going to castle, I just needed to find some place to put my king. So now I can trade and grab a pawn over here. So it should be fairly simple from here, but actually there are further mistakes in this game. I'm just, well, I'm only one pawn up, but I also have the bishop pair, and this pawn is a passed pawn, which is supported. I play the move bishop c5 here. If we back up, h4 right away is a good move, or bishop to e2, liberating my rook. Yeah, I mean, I should be thinking a little bit more about my rook. I was kind of fixated on this idea of playing pawn to d4 there, but I didn't want to trap my bishop inside the pawn chain, so I get it out of the pawn chain. It's just that, I mean, it's not an awful move, but I just had better moves, and now rook c8 here, and this is completely even. So watch what happens. He could have played the move rook to h1, and this is a bit of a problem because he's threatening to take here and he's threatening to take here. So the rook is overworked. It can't defend both of them. If I do nothing, just play my bishop, or, well, I could do a pawn move, I suppose. But the engine thinks my best, well, let's see what would go wrong. Well, I can't, yeah, it's hard to move a pawn. If I move the h-pawn, then this g-pawn falls. If I move the g-pawn, see what would happen if I played that. Then knight to g3 is good. Yeah, forking these pieces and taking advantage of the pin. So I need to get the bishop out of hock, basically. So I have to take over here. And after b takes a6, and g4 now. Knight g3, rook a1. He's going to pick up a pawn, and it'll be just an even game. So accurate play is required at all times. So after d4, That's really a drawing move. To keep an advantage, once again I should get my rook off my bishop. Oh, retreating the bishop back to g1, that's really contradictory. I think just developing this bishop is probably the way to go. Can I play bishop to g2, for example? Or e2? Rook takes c5. Okay, I've got to defend my bishop. That's the problem. Yeah, so I've gotten myself into a corner. Okay, I defend the bishop, and he doesn't play the best move. He plays rook c6. So I push on with g4, don't I? No, I don't play that here. I take on a6 first. And he takes. And now I play rook to c1, getting my rook out. So at least I get my pieces active. But now he could play b6. I spotted this a little bit later. This is a bit of an awkward move for me. Forces my bishop to a square that's no good because his rook is here. What happens if I go to this square? Just knight takes d4. Yeah, I'm hanging this pawn. So anyway, yeah, so this b6 move would have been good right here. He played rook c6. And now I get the idea of kicking the knight with g4. And finally, I think I'm in a position where I've got a winning king and pawn endgame. So that's one lesson, is if you've got a winning king and pawn endgame, you can trade down to it. That's often the best way to play, because there's so many ways to go wrong. There's more pieces on the board, and it's just more certain. Of course, you have to be certain. You have to be sure it's not one of those cases where there's some draw. But now it's fairly straightforward. I can push the pawns forward and keep his king tied up. It's kind of interesting the way I win here. It took me a while to figure it out. But I have his king tied up over here, and then I run on the king side, and then I run to the queen side to take these pawns. And he can get back just in time to defend. But after he comes back to defend, then I can push the pawns on the other side of the board. And very typical kind of strategy. When you have an outside passed pawn, you can use it to distract the king, or you can use your king to distract your opponent's king. Either way. So my opponent resigned here, and I thought that was an interesting game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.